I'm just hitting the recording. All right, guys, are you ready? We warmed up.
Let's do this.
All right, loose caboose.
Sorry.
Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Superman.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of No Outside Food Allowed, episode 10. Today, we branch off our normal routine and bring you our first debate episode. We're going to commit our time today to argue over one of the most controversial films of our time, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Eddie's already laughing.
The most controversial movie. I don't think it's that important.
Well, it's controversial in the world of nerd.
That's right.
No, in this room.
So we have the Honorable Sam Lim mediating today.
Yes, I'll try to keep all you hooligans in check here.
In support of this masterpiece movie is myself, Adam Hoover, and Chris Gagne.
Defending.
And in opposition is Eddie McGowan
Hey,
and Chris Felix.
You said masterpiece.
I'm gonna hand it off to Sam here. He's gonna break it down a little bit. We're gonna give a quick recap of a couple of things.
Oh, yes. This week's quick little recap. We're going to talk a little bit about Jessica Jones and how it's a freaking nightmare. Writing-wise and storyline was horrible. And then the upside, Tomb Raider. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Where should we start here, Gagne? What was your bones to pick with good old Jessica Jones?
I had to trudge through, I think, about 10 or 11 episodes before I finally just threw in the towel and said no more. It was just a mess. It felt like it. I don't know where they were going with the show. They didn't have a quality bad guy this season. I all the characters seemed to be unlikable and over the top with their Jessica's very it felt very forced. They were like, you know what, we weren't expecting this to be that successful, so we need to get a second season out. And I think they should have done a little bit more background work and found a story that was really compelling like the first season.
Yeah,
right. Agreed.
So those are my points on
It
it.
definitely felt a little rush. I have to agree there.
Well, who finished it?
Yeah, I actually made it through. What is
You
it?
finished it too?
I think it was 13 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finished it. Like I said, it was pretty hard slugfest to get through it. It was pretty slow. Like Gagne said, some of the characters were just kind of unlikable. Didn't have a good villain.
Nope.
It was kind of up and down. You didn't really know where they were going with the plot. So yeah, it was just kind of a mediocre one.
My weird pet peeve is if I watch a movie or a TV show and I catch your natural accent, I can't let it go. Like I'm a dog with a bone. Like I leech onto it. I'm like, oh, it's killing me.
Yeah.
So this season, you can notice that Jessica Jones' sister, she switched between her English accent and her natural accent. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna notice throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
Didn't get that far. She has a sister?
Jessica Jones? Yeah, Trish.
her adopted
Trish is
sister.
her
Oh,
half
are
sister.
they
Her half
actually
sister.
sisters?
in the first season.
Yeah,
Oh,
They're not actually sisters.
Oh, okay.
But
you
they're
said
adopted
they're-
sisters.
Okay, because I know this is more family-oriented stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You're talking about a real biological sister.
Yeah, as a person who hasn't seen any of them, it sounds so disappointing. I loved the first season. I didn't know anything about the character. Came in, David Tennant was the best. He made that
Can
first
I-
season, and
can
I
I
guess
spoil that
that's
part?
probably why.
you guys mind? If I spell that part? No?
No.
Okay, I
Okay,
won't.
I
I
don't
won't.
know.
I kind of want to finish
Well,
it.
no.
I'm going to give it that
Also,
chance.
Okay.
The listeners probably haven't done what you've done and
They
zoomed through like
crush it
13
I didn't
episodes.
actually to
of
be
the
fair,
slog.
I didn't zoom through. It took me a week and a half to finish it. 'Cause I was talking to Gagne as I watched it. I'm like, this is a car wreck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though.
I was like at episode 9, I was gonna stop, but I saw it was 13 episodes. I'm like, oh, I turn back now. We're already gone too far. We're 9 in.
You're already going over the cliff.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna ride it through. I'm just gonna finish it off, and I finished it off.
You're good at finishing things up.
See, I'm only 5 episodes in.
Buzzing.
Like, honestly, it's not great. I'm pretty bored, to be honest with you, but I kind of just want to finish it off just to see where it ends up. There's little things I like about it. I'm not going to lie. It's not all terrible. I kind of like the jazzy noir sort of vibe. That
The
it
music's
gives.
good.
Yeah,
I'll give you
it's
that.
very noir, kind of like, just throwback to like, films like that. And I'm okay with that. It is very over the top as far as acting goes and, character development.
I would say if you take it for its theme over its plot line, then, you probably enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, I like things that it's trying to do. It's just, it's not necessarily executing it well.
It's still better than Iron Fist. I'll give it that.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I was telling Gagne how when I watched it, I'd rather watch it as a detective show and not a detective show try and be superhero also. Because like if you just do detective only, we're good.
Yeah.
And then did you guys who here all watch Tomb Raider already?
Me.
Me. Yay.
Okay, it's 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. All right, Eddie, I'm going to throw it to you first. What would you give it, good sir?
I'd give it like a 7.5 or bordering on an 8 because I enjoyed it. It was a good like popcorn flick to go see in the theater. I think it's definitely more worthy to see in theaters than Death Wish. Like, like it knew the tone it was going for. It stuck to it the whole time. What it really does is, where's my Uncharted movie? Because
that's what Sam was saying in the pre-show.
We've been getting one for like 10 years.
You know who got cast as Nathan Drake, right?
Like
Not
17
Mark Wahlberg.
different people.
Don't say Mark Wahlberg.
No, Tom Holland.
Tom Holland?
What?
As
This
a
is a
young,
real thing.
as a young,
Oh,
Yeah.
young.
Official?
That's right.
The
For the
young
young.
one.
Yeah, they're
the young
making an
version.
Uncharted film with a young Nathan Drake, and Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland, is going to play him.
Interesting choice.
I think it's a good casting.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to do like the long haul, like say start off with him
just
young,
start a young arc.
make him older, like you do a young Indiana Jones sort of thing. Well, why not?
Well, they had the brief intro in Uncharted 3 where you play as a young Drake.
Yes.
So they're just kind of going to use that intro and how he met Sully and kind of expand on it. I like
Yeah.
it. Could be
Probably-
cool.
I'm
That's
down
good.
for
That's a
that.
good way because when originally they said Mark Wahlberg, I'm like, not again.
No. But back to Tomb Raider. Gagne, what did you think?
I enjoyed it too. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. It was what I expected. It had a lot of good pieces to it in that they changed up the story from what I think you're used to. And then I enjoyed the fact that they cast Alicia Vikander, who I absolutely love. She was a bright spot in the movie. I think that it felt a little long in that they wanted to make it kind of like an origin story. You set up a lot in the very beginning and then the end felt like it was dragging, not because it was bad, just because like it was a little long in the tooth for what I feel is a video game. You know, like you don't need a whole lot of story. Like let's get to
A little
the
too much
things. So,
exposition.
It was the beginning. Like the major problem we had with it at the beginning is like, oh, how do I get to this island? Oh, go sign the papers that give you all of your dad's money.
But no,
No, I'm gonna go to this place and have a funny cameo.
pawn
but
shop.
Like
completely unnecessary because she could have just
could have cut
signed-
this 10 minutes out and just
Yeah.
get to the island.
Yeah.
My biggest gripe out of the whole thing, my only biggest gripe was her finding her dad's secret room, right? And the camera still had battery life 7 years later, timeline wise, 7 years. I'm like, that's fucking impossible. Because first off, when you open that camera, it'll say update. And you have to update everything in that freaking room. Like me and Eddie were talking about that. Like from a tech standpoint, I'm
Like,
like,
this shit is not real.
that's bullcrap.
I was like, as soon as she opens the door, there's like 2 new Apple Macs. They're sitting there. I'm like, pretty sure that's not how that works. And they're nice and shiny.
That is way like less than 7 years.
One thing I don't know if you guys noticed is when she opened that camera, it was a Sony camera. And I don't know if that was a dig at Sony because they didn't have the rights on this, I don't think. This was done by, who put it out?
Square Enix.
That's the game.
No. The studio. I'm blanking on what studio did it, but it wasn't Sony this time around. So
Did they do the original Angelina Jolie movies?
the Sony
Sony?
ones were, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or the
Interesting.
Sony ones, sorry, the original.
That's a good dig then.
It's
That's
either a
definitely
dig
good
or it's a product placement.
I'm trying to
Either
find
way.
Sony
Sony still pays money.
I'm just saying, Adam, there's no way a camera has a battery life of 7 years not
If
being
it's just been
charged.
sitting there.
Yes.
No,
Man, it's
And then-
nuclear. What do you want?
well, and then gripe number 2, my last gripe. On the video, he has one job. She had to do one job.
You can't
Burn all
say-
the
you can't-
evidence. Burn all the fucking evidence.
Yep.
But no,
Nope.
she got nosy. Okay.
Well, yeah, she's her father's daughter, right? So
But I love that he alluded to that. That's a great scene in the movie.
Yes, that's true. That is
Yeah.
true.
It's like- I like that they abused her more than.
Oh,
like,
really?
but-
Excuse
okay,
me,
okay,
what?
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
I
God.
understand what you're saying.
Go on, Edward.
In the originals, they made her like the original games where she was like a bulletproof action hero, and this one they copied the remake of the game where like she gets into this plane.
She's more
never
vulnerable.
killed anyone
Yeah.
before. She's vulnerable. She's getting stabbed. They literally took that from the game instead of an iron bar.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a-
It was
it's a
something else.
Giant splinter.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
so,
was telling Adam too how they actually got the bow and arrow exactly from the game too. It looked
And
perfectly.
the axe, the climbing axe.
where would
Yeah.
you guys rank this amongst all the classic video game movies?
Video game movies? Well, let's see. All of them are terrible.
Yes.
So, except
There's
for
a-
I like Warcraft.
Yeah.
I like the first Resident Evil.
yeah,
It's
it had a
the
good feel to
least
it.
It
bad.
was
of all of
original.
them.
Well,
No,
the first
I just
Resident
like,
to me,
no.
I enjoyed the first Resident Evil and the soundtrack too. It was a good
Yeah.
soundtrack.
I like the second one's soundtrack, but I mean, I did. Yeah, the first one's probably the best. Until you like just go with how silly the rest of them are, and then it's like whatever. But I think, oh, you know what? I love Doom, but I know I'm the only one.
Actually, no. Remember
But-
you and me.
Oh,
You and me
yeah.
love Doom.
I think Warcraft is probably the best video game thing, but it has that whole high fantasy thing going for it, so it's almost separate. But yeah, it's probably one of the better video game movies.
I would give definitely Tomb Raider an 8 out of 10. Just because they did a lot of fan service.
Pretty high up there.
And it matches a lot of the game that you played. So it's familiarity. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I know exactly where this scene's pulled from.
Is it better than Mortal Kombat though?
Because those are two different films, you're asking me.
Yeah, it's
Simple yes or
different.
no answer.
One's adventure, one's
okay,
action.
I'm
look,
gonna say no.
I don't want to hurt. I want to.
Yeah, that was on my list of like favorite bad movies.
Okay. You see, that's
have to
what I'm
go with
saying.
no.
It's like favorite bad
Yeah,
movies.
exactly.
I'm like, I
It's a
actually think
complicated
that's.
question.
I think that Tomb Raider is actually a good movie. So
Yeah, see, you're saying all video game movies are terrible, so you're calling this one not great
There
either.
you go.
So where
It's
do
a
you
good
go?
bad
I'm saying
movie.
all
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, you want to get into that?
No,
don't have
guys.
time for
We
this
have a
one.
different battle today.
That's right.
Today we have to come back and focus on BvS.
No, we're going to talk about a good bad movie. Apparently,
Same team.
I know.
Same team.
I see you.
Same concept.
I see.
All right. So you guys ready for the battle now? You guys ready for a showdown? We'll warm up. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We need to edit in like a Ken Watanabe, like let them fight kind of moment or something.
Finish him.
Round one.
All right. So who gets the first opening argument?
Well, we
I
are
feel
prosecuting.
We are prosecuting, so
So you want to go first? You bunch of prosecutes.
I feel like they should go first.
I know, right?
They can-
They'll need it. They'll need it.
they'll hear our aggressive things.
I'm
and
sorry,
then they
weren't you
can
supposed to be
defend
neutral, Sam?
those.
I am neutral. I'm saying
Yeah.
you guys need it, like in a good way. Like, yay, go for you guys.
Neutral.
That's totally what I got out of that. Yeah, absolutely.
You're misinterpreting the
notes.
things I say.
Oh my God, look at look at all those notes. It's great.
I mean, before I even start, I really do want to thank like all the people that are listening, everyone who like
Well,
interacted
I want to give
with
you all the answers to your test.
Oh my
I'm
God.
just
We're
trolling
trying to
you.
give a shout
I'm
out to
just
the
trolling
fans.
you.
You know,
Okay.
hey, thank you guys for participating
Yeah,
and voting.
thanks for
before
participating.
Sam rudely interrupts. Another compliment we'd like to give you guys.
the neutral mediator interrupting me again. I just wanted to thank all the listeners and everyone who participated on Facebook this week. It was like the most I've seen, especially Audrey. She's always sharing our things, so shout out to you. And
Just goes to show how controversial this movie is.
I seriously love you guys. Just keep it up. Please share us, like us, and
We appreciate it.
definitely give us an answer on who's right on this based on our arguments.
Yes, keep that in mind. This is based off the
Just on
arguments.
what-
Well,
like-
hey, there's no right or wrong answer here, guys. Okay.
Says the guy who already had 10% of the vote in the last poll.
It was not 10%.
So are you doing the opening?
Yeah, I'm gonna start.
All right, cool.
So we, the prosecution, have the difficult task of tearing down a movie many people may like or love, even. Movies are made for everyone to enjoy. Some movies adapted from existing properties can be made for fans and new viewers alike. We know that the movie think that the movie is bloated, a bloated slog through DC's attempt to put together their heroes in the same manner that Marvel has done with the Avengers. Marvel took years of building up to the Avengers and continues to leave DC in their dust when it comes to these films. WB and DC's impatience left us with someone's weird, pasted together jigsaw puzzle with parts of different comics all mixed in and glued together.
That's Zack Snyder, by the way.
That is true. Your hero. No, I got something to say about him too. I feel the defense, the defenders, if you will, will use words and phrases like "for the fans," for the people who read the comics, Easter eggs. Like this somehow makes a good quality film. Unfortunately, this isn't just a movie for comic book fans. It was put out there just like all the other Marvel movies. It's supposed to attract people that aren't interested in the comics or have never read the comic and possibly interest them in going and searching out this history Instead, it doesn't. It does the opposite. It leaves you befuddled and confused on what's going on. I think that these movies should have Easter eggs. They should be for the fans. They should have things that only comic book readers understand. But it should make sense, and it should intrigue people. We should be having fun watching two of the biggest superheroes fighting a giant grudge match. And instead, we have to wait an hour before anything actually happens of any import. They rehash things that everyone knows about the two of the most popular comic book characters. You can go to any person on the street and ask them what their top 5 comic book characters are, and I guarantee the first 2 are Superman, Batman, followed by Spider-Man, Wolverine, maybe the Hulk. Now it's a little different because of Marvel and their great movies.
Yes, they are expanding their universe.
And so Guardians is probably in there somewhere.
As one of the least known properties.
Right, exactly.
Now one of the most
because they
well-known.
did it the right way. Because I knew nothing about them, and I fucking love them now, right? But also in the fighting, why is the Dark Knight attacking Superman? Why is he so mad? The greatest detective. The greatest detective. He knows, the greatest detective has, he can do simple math. 100,000 people, I don't know how many people supposedly died in Man of Steel.
It was a big moment.
But Batman, I think, would understand the necessary sacrifices to save the entire planet, right? 100,000 is better than 7 billion. Is that right? The director, Zack Snyder.
Oh, you do know his name.
Oh, yes, I do. The defense's hero of storytelling tried to capture the feel and gritty darkness of the Dark Knight. But Snyder seemed to have very little understanding of what was really going on and the purposes of Batman's actions in that comic. It was like he was playing a game of telephone, and it took 7 other people who passed the message along of what's going on, and then we came out with Batman versus Superman. That's it.
Very nice.
Very nice. Very
That's-
nice.
Good work, Eddie.
That was a very eloquent opening by the prosecution. Touched on many points that I look forward to them diving deeper into. I'm obviously here to tell the audience and ask them to really keep in mind a few key points that you're going to hear the defense key in on. And we're going to hear from them talking about how bad Lex Luthor was this go around. We're going to hear about the Martha, and how that as a turning point isn't the strongest part of the film. One line in a film that's filled with so much drama that most Marvel movies will leave out because they're too busy towing the line of comic relief with mad action scenes. And they're great at it, but I would ask you to think about how long it was before Iron Man and Captain America fought in Civil War, which is basically Marvel's version of Batman versus Superman. It's not about when the characters start fighting. So maybe you want to fault the people at DC who played on the Batman and Superman name and named this film Batman versus Superman. Just because the two heroes didn't start fighting until the second half of the film, or the last third of the film, because I do know it is a long one, that's some reason for this film to be bad. You're going to hear that the pacing was slow and the beginning was, boring and could have been cut out. But what they did with this film that was made for fans, but anyone can enjoy, and I've talked to plenty of people who have enjoyed it, that they've blended 2 really prominent stories from Batman and Superman's history into one, and they made it their own. So what we're going to tell you today is that we enjoyed the film, and there are key points to the film that we are going to share with you. You're going to hear that Superman has been shown in the same way for so long that it was time to give a new story. And this was one that was done, I think, bravely. You're going to hear from us in our defense that, the pace isn't an issue, that doing something with the Dark Knight and twisting the story of The Dark Knight Returns up a bit is an okay thing to come by, and I'm very, very ready to defend Mr. Edward here. So let's do this.
I noticed that our friend Edward's face is turning so red.
He wants to say so
back.
much.
We're
He's
just waiting.
been holding back.
Very good, sir.
I was trying not to laugh, so
To-
it's hard.
Honestly, I just want to say I commend both of you guys. Really good opening statements. Really good pinpoints. Really, it's really good so far. It's a very promising court case.
Eddie was very prepared with a written statement. I'm proud of you. I like that. I was
you
flying
actually
by the
cared.
seat of my pants, but
Like a lot of good points on both sides there, fellas.
I'll start with the first rebuttal. Okay, so Gagne, you're saying that they took two major story arcs and blended it into one with this film. You said two. I saw so many story arcs. So not only did we get a weird rehash version of The Dark Knight Returns, and spoiler alert, the death of Superman as well. We also got many hints towards Injustice. We also got the coming of Darkseid. We had so many things coming in, even a little bit of Flashpoint maybe, with the little Flash cameo traveling back in time to stop things from happening. There's so many things going on at the same time. It's fine if we have Easter eggs. It's fine if we have hints towards the future and all that, but let's focus on the present. Considering that this is the second film in the DC Extended Universe, whatever they want to call it. I've heard it called the DCFU, Film Universe. I like that one. The fact is they try to cram in so much. It just screams desperation. Like, we get it. We get that there's a lot of things to work with. My problem, again, is that they're throwing so much at you so quickly, so soon. You don't have enough time to process, at least for the general audience. And I know that you said that this is for the fans, but like Eddie said also, a movie is made for everyone. There's plenty of Easter eggs that are fine, but it should not affect the overall enjoyment of the film. Casual fans went in there being bored out of the mind, being confused out of the mind. While I got a lot of things, I was still confused by many things. Like, why is this here? The whole nightmare sequence was a very cool visual stimulation, but what the hell did it have to do with the present movie at hand? Absolutely nothing. We got future angry Batman. We had future Injustice Superman. We had the parademons. We had the Omega symbol, talking about, Darkseid, of course. This is all a dream sequence that had absolutely nothing to do with the film. And then to follow that up, you had another nightmare sequence with the Flash, just showing up out of nowhere, giving warning to other plot devices that eventually turned out to be nothing. Maybe very slightly in Justice League, but that has nothing to do with right now. But again, just so many things so quickly. It's too much to take in at the same time. Take your time, flesh out your characters, develop a proper story and narrative. Not to compare to Marvel, because I'm not trying to play the fanboy card here, but take your time, flesh out your characters. The fans will respect you taking your time to do justice to all these characters. That's what they want. That's what they did with Marvel. They took a C-list character like Iron Man, and now Robert Downey Jr. practically has his own form of currency. Black Panther, another C-list character, has just crossed $1 billion. Standalone film, a character that most people, general audience, did not know a damn thing about until they saw Civil War. This character brought out his own movie, and now look at it. It's in the top 10 highest grossing domestic movies of all time. This film, sure, it made a lot of money, and that's due to the anticipation of two of the biggest characters of all time. And what happened a week later? More than 50% drop off because this movie was not great. And people saw that. They walked in, left confused, upset, maybe depressed. I know I was. I went with my wife to see it the first time. She fell asleep. I'm sorry. I walked out extremely upset. I've seen this movie 5 fucking times now. That sucks. Just to really do my research and to really try to like.
Wow,
and
you watched it
understand
5
movie.
times this week?
No, 5 times altogether, and that is more than enough. Saw it
must
one
be really
time,
bad if
walked
you watched
out
it
angry.
5 times.
Saw it second time because I love you guys and I gave it another chance because I wanted to see what you guys were seeing. And I was like, okay, this isn't so terrible. I saw it again when it came out on Blu-ray. I was like, this isn't that great. Then I found out about the 3-hour edit. I watched it. I'm like, that makes more sense. Doesn't make it better because like there's still too much going on. And I saw it a 5th time again this weekend just to do research for this little debate. And I still had a boring ass frustrated time. By the end of this 2.5 hours, pretty much 3 hours though, because I did pause to take plenty of notes. I was completely bored and pretty stressed out by the time it was over and feeling very anxious.
As you're explaining this to me, I'm just picturing that song by REM, "Everybody Hurts," and like that's
little
you.
bit. You know that Native American
that
tear
is
coming
him.
down in my eye? Towards the end of the movie. It wasn't for Superman, trust me. It was the fact that I wasted another 3 hours watching this damn movie. So yeah, that's my first rebut.
All right.
You want
well,
to?
very good.
You want to take that? Take that, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start on that one. I mean, all right, let's see. Your first major point here. The nightmare had nothing to do with the film. I think the nightmare was enforced Bruce's mental picture of Superman in that if he was to go one step farther, if he was to stay in Gotham for 20 years and nothing changed, right? If he was to push himself to that point, Superman would eventually become that injustice type of Superman. He would become a dictator. He would kill people. He would be over the line. That enforces Bruce's mentality that he's just going to become, this evil alien dictator, that he is not human. He has no compassion. That's really what I think that nightmare scene was for. And then as far as Flash coming in, obviously that's a plant for later on. They have to set up Darkseid. You have to build up to one of these major bad guys, and Darkseid is Superman's, next to Lex Luthor, one of his biggest main villains. So you have to set it up. And instead of like Marvel, where they might throw that at the end credit scene, they're going to throw it in as a dream sequence within the movie. I didn't think that was a bad thing. Maybe some people left confused. You don't really necessarily know what the parademons are. Oh my God, what are those flying things? Well, we didn't know some characters moving into the Marvel franchise either. Ant-Man, whether it's Black Panther or whatever. Do some research. This movie sets up a lot, so maybe you should go read a comic book or two about Darkseid. Maybe that would be a little bit of more anticipation for the next movie.
I really enjoyed this argument that's going on so far. And I'm like, I can't jump in. I'm just a neutral guy.
I don't know. Ganya, you got something to say on that? I kind of lost track there.
I did, just to kind of follow up with what you mentioned about the Dream Suite sequence. Can't even talk over here. And so I may be wrong on this, but I thought for sure that the Flash sequence was the same as the Dream sequence. It all took place at one time. He didn't have two nightmares, right?
I mean,
Yes or no?
Kind of like continuing.
Pretty sloppy editing if that's the case.
Okay, well, it's all one scene where Bruce is dreaming, and so this is the catalyst for Batman fighting Superman. In your opening statements, you act as though there's not a reason for this, and while the original Dark Knight Returns is about Superman stopping Batman, this turned it on its head because you have the events of Man of Steel, in which Superman destroys Metropolis fighting, kills all these people, which are relevant to Batman. That's how they tied it in, and then flipped The Night Returns on its head. So Batman needs his drive to hate Superman and fuel Superman, and he has that through his dream sequences where he envisions, as Adam said, Superman taking the next step and becoming this dictator because who could stop him? And so that's, how I feel the dream sequence is. How you could say it's not used, or not necessary is exactly why Batman needs it. Like, you need him to fuel the hatred he feels and the scaredness he feels for the uncertainty of the future. And that's where it is. I don't know why, that was
that's the 1% he's talking about. If there's even 1% on, certainty, then you have to take it as an absolute.
Sure. Sith Lord. But with the pacing and how
Batman is the Sith Lord. He kind of reflects that. But
he's not supposed to be. Well, he's supposed to be a calculating, great detective. That's what he does.
Do you remember the Dark Knight, though?
I do remember it, yeah. I was just about to say, wasn't the whole point of Batman kicking Superman's ass was to get him, off of, out of the control of thinking that he belongs to the United States and that he should be, free of that or some shit? It's been forever since...
In the Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
In the Dark Knight Returns, yes.
Batman had come back from a long... time off to become a vigilante again, and Superman had been working with the government, and he came to shut Batman down for good.
Right.
Because the government didn't like what Batman was doing.
Right, and then he makes Superman realize that he doesn't have to be a part of the system, and then
go ahead.
And then basically it's almost like an overlord at the end of it, right?
And then I'm gonna pass it to Flex and then pass it back to Ganya.
A quick interjection real quick. I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, Adam, that if you don't understand the film, you should do some research. Again, I
Wow.
don't mean to do the Marvel card, but nobody was bitching about watching Guardians of the Galaxy and not understanding and having to do research. If anything, people were inspired to go and pick up those comics. You can
That's
say
what
that
I'm
for
saying.
plenty of those other characters. But this wasn't inspiring. I want to know more about these characters. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was about. I need to read this up, I guess, because there's so many things going on. And jumping into The Dark Knight Returns, I actually read it this past few days. I finished it this morning in order to do research for this. Yes, Superman was a government toy. He was being used, not manipulated, but he was basically their way of keeping things in check. Batman, he's in his 50s at this point. He took a long time out of retirement, but he's basically has a dual personality at this point where Batman is its own entity and it keeps coming back to him. So, of course, he picks up the mantle again. And by the end of it, he is just basically, first of all, I have to say, he doesn't kill anybody. This entire book, he doesn't kill one thing. He even says in his head, it's a line that I drew for myself years ago that I will not cross. This movie, he kills so many people. And I know you say some of them are accidental. Some were not accidental. That Batwing blew the shit out of some of those cars. That Batmobile, he could have easily sideswiped, disabled some vehicles. No, he just chose to fire away with that giant fucking cannon on that car and destroy the hell out of those people. Like, the nightmare sequence doesn't count. I know he shot the hell out of some people, but no, he murdered the fuck out of these criminals. So regardless of what you say, accidents or not, he kills people. That is not Batman. That is not what he does.
Okay.
All right, Gagne. Back
Well,
to you.
yeah, go ahead, Gagne.
So there's plenty of different takes on characters. This happens in every universe that you could think of. It happens with books turned into movies. The fact that Batman has this in his head that he needs to stop Superman, and Batman has lost it. And that's how they show it, by him taking things too far. His interactions with Alfred, like, hey, this isn't you. Like, and you have to show him doing things that are not him in order to make this path that he goes down relevant. Adam?
He says it early on to Alfred. We are criminals. We've always been criminals. This is a Batman that's been doing this for 20 years, and nothing has changed. He's seen Robin die. He's obviously seen a bunch of shit go down, Metropolis going down, the Wayne building coming down. He's at the end of his limits. This is a Batman that's different than any other Batman concept that we've seen before. This older, tired Batman that's willing to go to any length, especially when it comes to Superman, which he considers this godlike power that can't be stopped. And I think when he finally realizes that Superman has a human side, and whether or not you laugh at the moment, I think it was brilliantly written. We'll get to that one, I'm sure, on your next rebuttal. But, he feels that, Superman may actually have a connection to this world, and, that immediately causes him to realize that he was the bad guy at this point. So he flips on it.
To go back to the him killing things, which I don't mind in the action scenes where he's killing people, that kind of feels right. It just happens. Sorry, if you use guns, Batman has better guns. That happens.
Damn right. It's not
So
like
I don't have an issue with that. Like, I am all for changing characters a little bit. The part that I'm not okay with is him sentencing people to death, and he does
With the branding.
With the branding, that is not Batman. Batman is
Well,
not the executioner.
Batman doesn't kill him there. He
No,
brands
no,
him.
That's some bullshit. That's
no,
some bullshit
that's
from The Dark
indirectness.
Knight. No, that's some bullshit from the first Batman Begins. I'm not
Okay,
killing you.
well,
I'm just not saving you. That's
You're
fucking
making
killing
the point.
someone.
In the best Batman trilogy of most
And he
people's
killed.
lives, he kills people in that too.
So what was that word you just used? He killed
kills
him?
people too.
Okay, so he sentenced these
This
people
was an
to
indirect
death.
killing.
But indirect is still in. If you have the ability to save someone's life or not kill them, then you are sentencing them to death.
Hold on. Then
That
this
is
is
killing
another
them.
plot driving force that is why they lead to fighting, is because that Superman believes that Batman is in fact causing these people's death.
Right.
This is a plot driven thing.
So it's okay to completely change the vigilante to a murderer to get your plot across, is what you're saying.
You're taking it to an extreme. There's
I'm
grades
not.
there.
I'm literally not. He
Yeah.
literally sentenced these men to die,
Yeah.
and you already admitted that that's killing.
I mean, do we know that he sentenced them just because?
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me do it like the movie says.
Judge,
Here's
jury,
a brand.
executioner.
Every person that's branded and goes into the prison is murdered by the inmates.
Okay,
Who says
hold
that
on,
though?
hold
Does
on,
Batman
guys.
say that?
Hold on,
Or
I
is
got a
that,
point.
is that
Batman doesn't.
explained in the story?
Yeah, it's explained. It's like
Exactly.
the first thing. that he's a
Batman's not the
murderer.
one going,
so you agree
"I
that he's
brand
killing
these
these
people."
guys? Can
No,
you?
I d-
Okay, but
I don't agree.
just answer this question: Is he? So he's not killing them
No.
by branding
Correct.
them, knowing that they're going to die.
Nope.
Does he know
How
that?
does that not
do,
work?
do they explain
That's
that?
his-
to
He
somebody?
100% does it because he keeps doing it.
No.
No, they show it one time.
Okay, they do. Everyone who is branded is killed, is what they say in the movie. Every time someone goes into prison with this brand, every time, implying more than once, which means it would only take one time of him branding someone that he killed him, he would go, maybe I shouldn't do that.
All right, pause. Again, Batman is at the end of his rope. And at the end of the movie, does he brand Lex Luthor? He does not. He hits the wall, all right? He has learned that he has gone past the point of no return, so he turns himself around mentally. That's the whole point of him, that's the whole point of Superman dying,
Okay,
is for Bruce to then learn that he
let's
needs
talk
to do
about
better.
the death of Superman real quick. This was absolutely not earned by this point in the film.
There was no emotion.
Yeah.
I felt nothing when he died.
Yes.
It's
I-
it's
it was
one of
so
the
cheap.
I don't read a lot of DC comics, but I read the book the Life and Death of Superman. I read those comics when he died. The moment in the comics where he gets up, says goodbye to Lois, and goes and dies, I wept.
Yes.
I cried. I felt bad, even knowing this. I was already way older, and there was way more Superman comics, and eventually he comes back. But there was that emotion. This is nothing.
Yeah. Let me jump in on that too, because I actually read that book as well this past week. I did some major research. I read those
I love
two
it.
books. I read The Death of Superman, and again, like I said, this death was not warranted in the film, because what makes The Death of Superman so great is that he is the last stand against Doomsday. Doomsday shows up out of nowhere, which I'm fine at being a super vague kind of thing, but he literally shows up out of nowhere, wrecks this version of the Justice League, goes through each and every single one of them, while at the same time, Superman is talking to the people. We're getting to know him. He's speaking to an audience, just being a normal, just American person speaking to the audience, giving hope and inspiring children. We don't get any of that in these films. Once he actually faces off with Doomsday, it is pure fisticuffs, hand to hand, and the entire time we're in Superman's head and we're hearing his struggle. He admits to himself that he cannot beat him. He is weaker than him. He's completely, he's completely out of his range. He cannot take him on, but he's going to fight till the very end, till it gets to Metropolis and it comes down to the center. It's just the two of them, literally blow by blow. They're just beating the crap out of each other. Skyscraper windows are shattering. Everybody's surrounding them. Lois Lane this entire time is up in a helicopter, narrating the entire thing for the world to see, giving the emotion, just showing how much of a savior he's supposed to be, until literally the last punch and they both collapse on the ground. The last thing Superman says, "Did I stop him?" Lois says yes, closes his eyes and dies. That is a fucking earned death right there. What do we get in this movie? First of all, this version of Superman is a fucking idiot. The first time he actually sees Bruce Wayne, what does he say? Who's that? This is a reporter for the Daily Planet who works at Metropolis, which just happens to be across the bay from fucking Gotham, by the way.
Which he just started, by the
So
way.
they're practically neighbors. I'm sorry, but if you're a reporter for
Which
the
he just
biggest
started, by the
newspaper
way.
in the city, everybody knows who billionaire Bruce Wayne is, who's buying fucking things left and right. Everybody knows him. And then come down to the fight. Superman
It's the
walks
guy
into
from Kansas.
literally walks into every single trap that Batman throws at him, and he gets hit by a kryptonite grenade twice. The second time he gets hit
doesn't
by
know how to fight.
he steadily glides towards Batman as he's stumbling to reload. This is Superman we're talking
fear.
about. This is Superman we're talking about. He can hear a heartbeat 6 feet underground.
Sorry, I'm just debating
And
it.
he's flying towards him, allowing Batman to get the time
Real
to
time here.
reload his grenade launcher and hit him again. This is fucking Superman. We saw him earlier in the film go at the speed of light and take out this terrorist who was holding Lois Lane. You're telling me that Superman can't just fly up in the air, get behind Batman, and take him out again? No, he fucking steadily flies towards him and gets hit again. And then, of course, we get the infamous scene, which I don't want to get to yet because it's just too easy.
Okay,
Let's save that one.
Whoa. Hang on. We haven't even moved to the second rebuttal yet. Like we just kept like on the first part.
well,
But
I know,
it's
that's
working.
fine.
It's still going.
I think
Okay.
we're working.
And-
I think
well,
we're
actually,
working.
as long
man.
as we give them time.
But one thing I didn't get to touch on also, when he actually bites it in this movie, it was not necessary whatsoever. I'm sorry, but like, first of all, Lois, again, is just a struggle bus in this entire movie.
All right, you've had your turn.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
All right. So let's start with Doomsday.
Oh, yeah, that was shoehorned in.
Sure. All right. So at the very beginning of the movie, we are set up for this battle, Batman versus Superman. Everybody wants to see it, right?
Yes.
But we also know that in the end, they are going to team up and make the Justice League. Okay. So in the end, they have to come together to fight something, right? There has to be an ending to the movie besides them being friends. That's not an ending to a movie. It has to have an arc, okay? So they come together to fight Doomsday. In the comic books, which I agree with you, Felix, was epic. All right, one of my favorite arcs of all time. The only way for this movie to end, and I think Zack Snyder had this planned out from the very beginning in his 3-movie contract, which not a lot of directors get that chance to make their own trilogy. In the arc of Superman and Batman and the world, Superman needs to die in order for the people to truly believe that he was on our side. So the only way to kill Superman, the only way in comic history to kill Superman, is to bring in Doomsday. Sure, they might have shoehorned him in, but that's the only way to end this movie realistically, was to kill Superman. And for Lex, you can tell he never had true confidence that Batman had a chance at killing Superman. So he created Doomsday. You can tell in the sequence of the movie, before they even start fighting, he's already planning to resurrect Doomsday. That was his endgame. He was going to have something that was going to kill this godlike figure, or at least bloody him so that the world knows he can be killed. Anyway.
So he bleeds.
We'll let Eddie take this one.
I feel like it was an unforced error. I still think that if this was a movie, if it was a Batman and Superman movie where they both took on Doomsday.
They do?
That is correct, thank you. Let me
just want to make sure that was noted.
I guess.
Oh, okay.
No, let me finish.
Just seeing where you were going.
I shouldn't have paused
Sorry.
there. If they would have fought Doomsday alone or something else, I don't know. I feel like they rushed it so much. Like, they didn't need...
Explain.
They didn't need Doomsday. They didn't need to kill Superman. They could
Who
have
were the bad
had
guys?
this...
How do you end it?
Who fucking knows?
Get
I don't
any
write
other
them.
villain.
I don't know. They could have added anything. The thing
You're
is...
not a writer. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and are you...
You need a story. Yeah, kind of. I'm a creative person that knows and read comics and watched movies. There's an arc. It has to begin somewhere. It has to have a change.
And it has to have a
end somewhere.
change. Everyone has to go on a journey.
Yes.
Batman... His journey as he hears someone's name and it changes. He's kind of a human. No,
good God.
God,
You
no.
just
Okay.
pointed out the key moment in his journey.
His
You
the key
let Eddie finish his thing.
all I'm
Very
saying.
Sorry.
Sam, you need a
there's
gavel.
so many
Deep
different.
breath. Everyone deep
There's
breath.
so many different ways. There's other comic books, movies have done it. They don't have to copy the other ones, but it's just frustrating that the biggest moment that I know of in the DC universe. I know there's the rings and all these other ones that are cool.
I can't help
and
it. I can't help you out. Sorry.
I'm not
I
asking for
want
your
to.
help. I'm just talking as me because I'm not as big a comic book person as you. I'm creative. I like to draw. I don't know anything about writing. I know about reading books. I know how they go up, they go down, the climax. I know that. I know that it's about emotion. It's how you feel about the characters. And I feel like they didn't do that with these characters. I feel like they deserve more. Wonder Woman was good because you felt for her. You understood everything that she was going through. You could, not the whole God thing, but and not those beautiful eyes.
Focus, Eddie. Focus.
Anyway,
You're trying to make a point. You're trying to make a
What am I
point.
talking about? Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's in this movie, right?
Yeah,
But I
basic
just feel like,
introduction,
I just feel like if they had paced out these movies and interconnected them in some different way, not for me to figure out because that's not my job. I didn't get paid millions of dollars. For them to come out with something that was more coherent, gave you more emotional connection to the characters, and earned that death. I would have loved to have seen his 3 movies. 3 movies he was guaranteed. That 3rd movie could have been the life and death of Superman. Him die halfway through the movie, and then by the end of it, we're left with questions about who are all these Supermen, and someone else, or him, because it would have been better, could have made that next movie about what happens after Superman dies and leads on to whatever their version of Infinity War or whatever with everything that's going
with
on.
Thanos. Sure.
Yeah,
With Darkseid, basically
Okay.
we're looking for
I'm sorry.
Hang on,
end
so Eddie,
Yeah,
are you
Oh, yeah, no, go
okay?
ahead.
So who wants next? You or
I haven't heard from
Flex?
Gagne in a while.
Got
Gagne?
it, yeah.
Just to touch on a couple of things that I appreciate the sense of feeling rushed in a movie that is 2.5 hours without the extended version, but it's
That is not what I meant, and you know it.
the story arc for the death of Superman, while beautiful, is a comic series carried out over weeks and weeks and weeks, planned and carefully crafted because you're focusing on one singular character. This isn't a movie about that. So this is taking the idea and fitting it into a film. And while everybody agrees that books tend to be better than movies, this was not some heartless death of Superman. You see his arc if you follow the film from the beginning to the end, in that he's struggling to find his place in the world. People don't like him. He fails to save people at Congress. He didn't see the bomb. He wasn't paying attention. His mind's not there. And yet somehow at the end, he knows he's the only one who could really stop this creature by getting close because he has the strength to do so. And he sacrifices himself regardless of how the world feels about him. And I don't know how you don't feel something there. While it's only been a movie and a half, or 2 full movies almost, that this character's been around, it's not heartless in the sense that Batman turns his idea of what Superman is to see that this guy's here to help, and so they join forces. You get the introduction to Wonder Woman, which is an absolute phenomenal part of the film without knowing any of her backstory. And then you get to see 3 of the most iconic DC characters fight one of the most iconic baddies in DC, and you get that sense of like they came together and there's more to come. There's a stunning scene that made me think of, and why it means even more, obviously, is that I've read these comics, but the scene where Wonder Woman and Batman are carefully laying him down, lowering him to where Lois is, to the scene of Lois holding him with Batman and Wonder Woman standing over that is straight from the comic. Like, her with him and the characters that were around during this fight, like standing over, like, we've lost the greatest hero that we've ever had. And so I don't see how, I just don't see it. And again, this is coming from a fan side versus somebody who says they don't like the movie. And that's where we're both going to feel different things. But anyhow, someone else can talk. Felix.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll interject with that. But okay, so like you were saying, yes, I do agree with you that there were some great visual moments right there. The whole shot of his body being carried, yes, great, beautiful imagery.
How can you say there was no emotion in this movie?
Well, there's not, because we have yet to love this Superman, because in Man of Steel, he arrives. He's brand new, he's alien. By the end of the movie, we get a little bit of celebration, but there's at the cost of how many lives and total destruction. And that's where that rolls over into this film over here.
That's why it starts.
But
right?
again, the problem is Superman is supposed to be a symbol of hope, inspiration. He's that savior. He is that person that people look up to. We barely get that. We get lots of references to that throughout the movie. Like, oh yeah, well, like, a lot of people like him, but I feel like we needed another movie to see that. This entire time he's shunned by the general population. Nobody likes him. They built a fucking statue of him, first of all, in front of a memorial wall, which is kind of but I'm saying, how does that work in the movie when so many people are afraid and fearful? They put him in front of a monument that is dedicated to the people that died during the Battle of Metropolis.
Well, that's how dynamic his character is. You have this public figure that thinks that he saved the world, right? And then you have this media persona that gets put out there that we're untrustworthy of. We don't know what happens, and then he goes into the Capitol building.
Enough of that. That's my problem with it, is we don't see enough of this praise for Superman. You don't really get anything. Every time he's on camera, he's just looking so bummed out. Even his music is ominous, which I will actually use that as my evidence right now. Case in point, this scene right here. When you see him saving people, all you get is just this depressing, uninspiring music. It's just, this sounds more like a villain, if anything else. You don't get that sense of hope and inspiration.
This part of the movie, right? He's coming down and saving people on the rooftop, right? They're in a long expositional scene between, the media talking about who we are as a people, and then you bring in all the scientists, right? And they're talking about, we're not even special anymore. This is a dramatic scene for dramatic music. This isn't about saving people at this point. This is about explaining.
This never paints Superman in a good light, and that's my problem with this film. Is like we have yet to really see anything that makes him seem like an inspirational figure. Well, people are just living in fear of him this entire time.
That's because of the media portrayal. Like that's the whole point of having Luthor as the bad guy and setting Superman up in the desert, right? That nobody even knows that Superman would be there. But these people died, and the people in the media are saying, "What happened? We don't know. And then Superman is blamed for it. We don't have any details, but Superman's still blamed for it. And that's what he's, personified as a bad
This is
person,
fine
right?
as a later arc for the
And then-
character.
case in point, is a character arc. This is a very early Superman who's still learning to be Superman, to be that hope. And again, this is part of that trilogy, right? He dies for it, and then he comes back as that hope.
Why are we in such a hurry to get to these major story points, though? The death of Superman is such a big thing. That is happening 2 films in, and that happens.
Go ahead, Gagne.
I just want to point out that he's been on the big screen for lots and lots and lots of years. So
The
we're not
previous
in a
films
rush
don't count.
anymore.
We're talking about the current extended universe.
I understand that, but what you're saying is you want to see the same stories rehashed over and over before you see something major happen. And this was a 3-part movie that one director had a chance to tell his story, his vision of Superman. So if you're not going to do one of the most iconic stories, then you're going to get the same boring, hey, Lex Luthor shot a nuclear missile into space again. Let's go stop that. Let's do something different. And they did. They took chances. They were brave. They did something beyond what we've seen in any other Superman movie. Did they take 10 years to build it up and have the time to make multiple movies? No, Warner Brothers didn't want that commitment. They gave Zack Snyder control for 3 films to make what he wanted to make, and this is what he made. You can't say that,
not good.
oh, well, choosing to kill him, that you choosing to kill Superman was too early. We should have waited till number 5. You don't even know if you're going to
he
get
wouldn't
to
be
that.
directing it.
I'm not
You don't know
asking
if
for an
you would-
overextended
That's a good thing.
rehash of what we've already seen. I'm just saying make this generation like Superman because again, I know certain people
Superman.
that
Okay.
don't. I know certain people that
It's
don't like
Superman.
Superman and they didn't feel any different about him when they walked out of this movie.
Okay, everybody's about to jump in, so let's get in line. All right, Eddie, and then Adam.
Actually, I want to laugh.
Okay, go and laugh. We can edit this out. So go and laugh.
Taking this too seriously.
Everyone's like jumping in so quick. Like, okay, everybody, take a deep breath, guys. Play nice. We're all still friends, right? Right?
The way that they make these films darker is it's like this fake darkness. It's like it's Superman. It doesn't have to. I know it's like a different take and it's got to be dramatic, but does everything have to be that way? And this sepia tone or whatever the hell color they're putting over the
you don't
film.
you don't like goth?
It's just come on.
It's
and
too
also,
gothic for you?
like, every scene is like in this giant fucking like scene, but like they're all that way. And
Oh, what do you
they're
mean?
not like
You mean it seems epic?
yeah,
in
but
scale?
like like when everything is special or everyone is special, no one's special. So like it's just all similar and it's just
Well,
drab.
Remind me to
Oh,
bring
okay.
that up
drab
for
and
Avengers.
sad and
You mean like
You mean the movie that they
filming wise,
took-
right?
8 years to build up to be epic.
No, Eddie. I was asking like, you mean like filming wise, right? The actual
Yeah, like,
cinematography.
everything.
So
is
every
like,
scene was okay. I get what
know
you
what I'm
mean.
saying?
Okay,
Like,
okay.
The scope is
yeah.
fine, but like I agree with what you're saying. It's just this movie is just not fun. Like I'm not saying it needs to be cracking jokes. This isn't
All
a
right, so
it
comedy.
doesn't have to be
Wait, wait.
Thor.
So-
Yes,
so there-
it just needs to be a
Adam's
little
turn.
bit more
Hang
entertaining.
on.
We did not get a chance to love this Superman, and like I said, people that went in there with their opinions of Superman, their minds were not changed. And there's other films that I've seen. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to do the Marvel fanboy, but I never liked Captain America that much. I saw the first movie and I thought it was fine, but as it went on, that character at least grew on me, and he became more likable. That way, when stakes were happening,
but you didn't
it
know
was
that
entertaining.
character. Everybody knows Batman and Superman.
I knew
Everybody's got
Captain
their
America. I know he's
preconceived notion of
he's a
it.
Boy Scout. I know his just to be frozen in time. He's fish out of water. He's in our present time. He's a goody two shoes. That's all you need to know about Captain America. He's lame, but you watch those films and it makes him a lot better. You could say the same thing about Superman. To be perfectly honest with the general audience, he's a Boy Scout. He's a goody two shoes. He is just perfect. He can do anything.
Well.
But this film didn't really do justice to characters that could have changed their people's perception on what they thought of that character. I'm not asking to rehash, the Christopher Reeve version of Superman. I'm just saying, like, give us a version of Superman that many people will enjoy, whether or not you thought he was lame in the past, whether or not you're a fan. Again, this should have been made for an audience that just grow to love this character. Whether or not you're a comic book fan, you should at least walk out of this film liking your main character. I like Man of Steel, but this one, again, did not do Superman any favors. This is a glorified Batman film that Superman happened to be, dragged into.
I just want to say, as the mediator so far, both teams have really good points, good pros and cons so far. Just want to let you guys know you guys are doing a good job.
Thanks,
I like it
Sam.
so far.
That's nice of you.
Now
very
finish
sweet.
him.
Well, there's still many other points I would like to make,
All right.
but I'll give somebody else a chance.
Hang on. You pulled a point. Eddie, you want to pull a point?
Just talking about the characters and how it's basically a Batman movie. It's Batman. You're right. He's the only one who kind of has an arc, right? Like Superman, just like and what's Superman's arc?
Superman is learning the entire trilogy.
Wait, are you sure you want
No,
past
no,
he
no,
is
no, no,
struggling-
I'm not talking about a trilogy. I'm
All
talking
right,
about
in
this movie. What's his
particularly,
arc in this
his
movie?
arc is struggling between his human side and his alien side. Does he protect this world? Does he leave this world? You know,
Where did it get into that?
Does
I
he
remember
deserve
him spending time with Lois,
and his mom and his
sacrificing
dad?
himself. At the end was like the human thing where he's gonna save humanity. But like Batman, like you said, he hates Superman. He learns Superman's human, and then he turns it around. He has a full arc, right?
Sure.
Superman didn't do that.
Well, Superman, like Adam said, is spending the entire movie deciding whether he even wants to do this or whether he's good for it or the person for the job. He has the touching moment meeting with his mom back in Kansas, asking her advice, and she gives an amazing line about, be Superman, be Clark Kent, be nothing. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't owe the world anything. Giving motherly advice to a man who's struggling, not knowing whether him being a part of Earth is good or bad, or he can't take the criticism, but he knows that he can help people. That's literally the entire story for him. And what do you need more than that, other than he gets to the point where he feels like he has to bend from being the person he is to go kill some man to save his mother. Like, that's, again, another plot point that fits right into why he decides to go and fight Batman. Like, all these things are connected if you're paying attention, and I feel like you guys are missing that point by saying it's too rushed and too much. But I feel like I can connect every one of these plot points to parts in the movie that if you're just following along with the story,
Make total sense.
Yeah, maybe if it was a shorter movie, I could have remembered everything.
No, I disagree completely because the Ultimate Edition is actually a better version of the movie.
Okay.
The studio decides to cut this movie down, right? All right, and Zack Snyder has this grand plan, and obviously they can't have a 3.5-hour movie, right? So they cut it down.
Return of the
But-
King was pretty long.
Well, sure.
Wait,
but
is that
also
backup note?
was New Line Cinema, so and they
Yeah,
also
but-
had the other two movies that had make $1 billion a piece. So obviously they're gonna have a little more leeway.
I just want to let the audience know, as me as a mediator, Eddie's whipped out a piece of paper. I thought it was like a contingency plan. I was like, oh my gosh, does he have a contingency plan for all this?
opens the
He's like, in case
envelope.
they bring up this argument.
Evidence.
Are we doing a scene?
One
Go
point I
ahead.
forgot to touch on earlier with, I think it was Felix talking about Black Panther crossing the $1 billion mark. Batman vs. Superman did $843 million. So I would like to point out that despite saying, it had a good opening, I obviously continued to have a good run. It didn't make $843 million in one weekend. That's up there. So the film is good. You can't judge it based on the numbers.
Take a look
You're-
at some stats,
okay,
though.
okay.
BvS has some pretty good opening.
It has some really
Yeah.
good numbers.
Yeah.
You know what they call that? Your first impression, right? You get the first impression. What happened with Justice League? How did that one do?
We're not talking Justice
Oh,
League.
no, I just
we're not
wanna know
talking
numbers.
Justice League.
Well, I know we're not talking about the quality of Justice League. I just want to know if anyone knows how much it made.
It did less than 100 million opening weekend.
Oh, that's
Oh,
crazy.
like 92
So it must
million.
be because
Must be terrible.
people who saw the first one was like, well, this is trash. I'm not going to give them my money.
No,
again.
it's that
That's what
everybody saw
happens.
the movie opening weekend, and then less people go to see it that haven't seen
No,
it.
sequels
Hey,
do
hey,
better
hold-
than the
hang on.
originals.
It's the
It's
Not
return
all of
audience that
them.
are going.
Not
Oh, wait,
all
guys,
of them.
not all the bad ones.
Hang
You're
on, hang on.
Order, motherfuckers,
Hold
order.
time out. Hold time out. Time out.
Oh,
The
Can't
audience
use
has
numbers as
listened-
an arguing. Okay.
Oh, no, I was going to say, the audience that's listening needs to understand that this discussion is about BvS, not Justice League. So those numbers, I understand that you're trying to bring an example, which is fine, but this is strictly on BvS. This is strictly on BvS only.
I was only bringing it up. Here we go. I was only bringing it up in the subject of this, that it gave such a bad impression of the characters going forward that it affected the box office. Not that
Thank you.
Justice
That's more
League,
clear.
not
That's more
talking
clear for the
about like
audience.
Justice League as a movie in any way.
Or because I loved all the characters, it was Rotten Tomatoes' fault that Justice League came
Really,
out.
you
with such
sure
a horrible
Jesse
review.
Eisenberg was a really great character? You really think that this is a great version of Lex
let's
Luthor?
talk about Lex. Let's
there
talk
we go.
about
Lex Luthor Jr., to be exact. The last time we got a junior villain, we got Eddie Brock Jr. in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, and how well did that turn out? We got a complete bastardization of a character. This is not Lex Luthor. I don't care what anybody says. Lex Luthor is a megalomaniacal genius who rivals Batman's, genius himself. Instead, we got a bratty rich kid who lives in the shadow of his father, and that is annoying. I'm sorry. There's nothing less villainous and just more annoying than anything is just a bratty rich kid. That's what we got. We didn't really get a villain. We just got a bratty little
Are you
rich
talking about
annoying-
that? Or are you talking about your customers at work?
This is beside the point. I'm talking about this annoying ass lack of a villain character. He's unapologetically playing this character that's so far from Lex Luthor. It's this weird mashup of this wannabe Joker meets Riddler. I don't know what the fuck this cartoon character was that thought he was playing, but that was not Lex Luthor. That was I'm sorry. That was probably hands down my least favorite part about this film. Go on in.
So who wants it next? You or Gagne?
I would love to hear you guys stand up for
then
Jesse
we'll go to-
Eisenberg.
and then we'll go to Eddie afterwards.
My defense to Lex Luthor is that he's a throwaway character in a giant portion of a film.
Whoa.
So if every Superman movie contained Lex Luthor being Lex Luthor, we're going to get the same crap that everybody complains about every single time a Superman movie comes out. It's Lex Luthor. Look, dude doesn't have any superpowers. Yes, is he supposed to be a super genius? But guess what? They still make him that in this film. He's the one who creates Doomsday. So instead of a
Zero help.
bad guy coming from the depths of space, we have Lex Luthor, who's the catalyst to the villains continuing on into Justice League. He's the guy who gets the ball rolling on everything that is bad. He's the one who wants to set up Superman by getting Batman involved. He's the one who creates Doomsday. Yeah, is he played by a younger guy and, he comes off as being bratty? Sure, but it doesn't have to be this debonair, bald old man who, is scheming to find a way to beat Superman every single time. They took a different turn and you didn't appreciate it. That's okay. That doesn't make the film bad. It makes Jesse Eisenberg's,
Portrayal.
version of him maybe not the best portrayal you've seen, but
So you admit
go
that he's
back
not
into
good.
the other. I'll admit that it's not the best Lex Luthor I've ever seen, but it doesn't make the film bad. His role is not to be a main part of this film. So yeah, are you saying I'm
you're making a
the points
very
for you?
political. No, you're making a very political way of saying that he was bad by not saying he was bad. You're like, he's not the best Lex Luthor. Just like I'm not pointing at you, Adam, or you, or you.
I think his point was more, he was not the focus, the main villain. It was supposed to be more Batman and Doomsday. He was more of a secondary villain who was behind the scenes, controlling the direction, planning all the intricacies. He was still a super genius, only this version of him, he had quirks. He was like the smartest guy in the room that could never finish a line. He always had so many things going in his head that he never knew what to say.
Don't
He
forget
was
the Jolly
He
Ranchers.
was that quirky character that Eisenberg always plays.
Well, agreed. Eisenberg, he's kind of typecast as that kind of nerdy white guy, awkward thing, kind of like a Michael Cera.
So,
like
but
a-
I mean,
exactly
like,
what I want to think of Lex Luthor.
if he does that
Well-
all the time, is he acting or is he just him and he's awkward?
Again, I think in the bigger picture, he's been, and this is a new version of the character. Obviously, Lex Luthor Jr. Really wasn't a character in the comic books. There were a couple iterations of him, but he never actually had a kid. But anyway, this version of Luthor, Eisenberg was. Initially, I thought he was a terrible choice, and I left the film thinking that he at least brought something new to the character that wasn't the same old, bald, super smart guy. He had layers to this character. That's what all I know.
When you're talking about characters as big as Batman and Superman, what can Lex Luthor really do? I felt like this was the first time that they said, you know what, Lex Luthor, for all that he's worth, can't really match up in a battle against Superman, wits or not. We've got one person who's going to use the kryptonite. So who's going to get it this time? It's definitely going to be Batman, because this is a Batman versus Superman, not a Superman movie. It wasn't meant to be a Superman movie. Superman's not some side character. He shares half the time that Batman does. And if anything, it's more a Superman movie because it's about the death of Superman in the end. It's a blend of all the things that you know from Superman, most of the things you know from Batman, and they put it together and did the best they could and came out with a damn good result, because guess what? You've never seen a Batman versus Superman before, have you? This is the first shot at it.
That's right. They've never been on screen before.
And after all the years, these years, this is what we got.
Okay,
Everybody was in anticipation of this movie, but
we're waiting for Eddie's turn now.
For, I just wanted to make one little comment before I make a joke. The Martha thing. I know everyone like drowns on this, right? Like this is the turning point, blah, blah, blah. This is what stops him. But the only thing I have the question about that scene is this country boy from Kansas, why would he call his mother by her first name?
I'll give you the reason.
Go ahead.
Because I knew you were going to ask this question. If Batman only thinks of Clark as an alien, all right, and he says, they're going to kill my mom, who is he going to think his mom is? An alien, all right? So by saying Martha, he is connecting to Earth, to a physical person
but
with a name.
How would he know? Why would he? In that
doesn't
moment
know
where
that
he's
Batman will
about
do
to
that.
die, he calls his mother by the first name, save Martha. But it's still like that's like a leap of like, why would he do that? Like, there's no way that you're about to die that you don't call out mommy. Don't give me that look, Kanye.
Save my mommy.
Yeah.
It's a joke about being scared, but I mean,
okay,
save my mother, save my mom.
Maybe it could have been written better, but the point of that was to connect the two characters.
Bad writing.
This was not bad writing. This was excellent and
pretty bad.
No, I mean, like the way you're saying it, it makes sense to me. Yes, right now you're telling me that yes, how would he connect to? He would think it's an alien, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's right, he would, but like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, why would Superman know?
Why would he say Martha? I understand it. Why would he use a first name basis for his mother?
Yeah, and
right?
In the moment that he's
save Ma Kent,
right? I mean, that would have been better. I'm just saying,
totally
it's like this moment where he thinks he might die, and the only person who can save him or save his mom is Batman. And I understand
Batman knows that Superman is Clark Kent at this point. All right, so by saying they're gonna kill Martha, he knows that.
If he knows that he's Clark Kent, then he knows that he's adopted by Martha, and he would say mom, and it would make sense still to him because he's the greatest fucking detective in the fucking DC universe.
The point that drives Superman to go face Batman is that Lex Luthor has Martha. Why wouldn't he say Martha? Why wouldn't he when he realizes that Batman? Okay, when he realizes he's beaten by Batman,
he's about to die,
and that the reason he's there is to kill Batman to save Martha. Why wouldn't he call out Martha? Why wouldn't he explain? He's trying to explain at that point to Batman that save Martha. That makes perfect sense. I don't understand. Is it in the scheme of things? Is it kind of funny the way it comes off? Sure, I'll admit that. And everybody drives home as that being the point that makes the movie bad. It's such a
That's just a thing that's in the pile of things that makes it bad. But I'm just saying, like, you're saying, like, he says Martha. He's rescuing Martha. But that's not how any of us work. We don't refer to our mother. I'm not going to go save. I'm not going to go save.
He's an alien.
Here's a call out. It doesn't matter. It's still his mother. You know this because he's raised as a baby that's his mother. He has no other one. Don't care what anyone says on that, right?
He has two.
He has two.
Yeah, Batman doesn't realize at that point.
But he knows that he's adopted. And I understand his whole arc is that he learns that he's human, kind of, human alien. But what I'm saying is all of us know that if I'm going to go save my mom, I don't go Stephanie.
You're beating a dead horse here. I get it.
But I mean, he just said the same thing. But I don't go Stephanie. I go mom. Every time I refer to her, she's mom.
You're missing a beautiful moment in this movie that they've set up from the very first scene.
No, all right, we got to start wrapping this up. Okay. So, where are we going to next? Closing statements or comedy skit?
Well, Eddie had something to say. I have a closing statement that I'll say for the end.
I have 3 pieces of evidence. Exhibit A, please, mediator, read that out loud.
Oh, God. Is this like from a Death Note?
Just for the audience, this is a piece of paper, lined paper, that's labeled Exhibit A that's been folded into fourths.
That is so late.
Giving
Just
to the
say it,
mediator.
God damn it.
This movie is bad. Exhibit wow, good job.
I present Exhibit B.
I object. I object.
Objects to A.
These are just your
Okay,
words.
just-
Don't forget, this part is a comedy skit. This part is a comedy skit. So we'll add some clown music to this.
Before you even read this, I object.
Just read it.
Are all three the
mediator.
same thing?
Just read it.
This is a 3-part joke, unfortunately.
Well, it's way worse than Zack Snyder's. But anyway, this movie is Bad Man versus Sucks Man. Wow.
Oh my god. Yes.
It's the same thing.
Exhibit C.
He's just trolling now.
Jeez.
The whole thing was trolling.
It says, I love the movie.
No, it says
Yeah. It says referred to Chibit.
Exhibit A and B.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
like,
this.
Very
this is
nice.
Fight Club, right?
Yes, good
All right,
job.
that's getting cut out.
The thing that got the biggest laugh. Get out of
You
here.
worked really hard on that joke.
I mean,
really good.
it took
I
me
am
like
sure
3
set
minutes.
up,
You don't
yeah.
even know.
All right, fine.
I had to
Okay.
I had
So
to
who
cut
wants
off
to
the paper ends and
Find the
everything.
paper.
Are we doing closing statements?
Closing statements. Who wants to take it on from your team?
Well, I have a
Between you
closing
two.
statement that I've written down. I'll keep
Okay.
it nice and simple, but it sums up basically everything we had to say.
Adam, you're going to take the closing statement?
Sure.
Okay.
Are we gonna do part 2 to this? Because I feel like there's part 2.
There's still a lot of things I haven't yet to touch on, so
Yeah.
I welcome it. If the audience will have us, I
We'll
will
think about
absolutely
it.
do
We'll think about it.
Anyway, so in closing,
Yes.
Batman vs. Superman is an overbloated film that ultimately crumbles under the weight of its own ambition due to its desperation to quickly catch up with its competitors. Rather than take the time to compose a cohesive narrative and plot, we are continuously assaulted by a blitzkrieg of muddled storytelling and CGI. If you're looking for a compilation of great comic book imagery without the heart or depth of the writings that inspired it, then this is the movie for you. I'll leave it at that.
This is
Your,
the movie. All
closing
right.
statement,
So,
Adam?
if you enjoy comic book movies and enjoy a little bit depth to your story, enjoy full story arcs for most characters that are in your movie, this movie does well in diving into different takes of these iconic characters that are almost streamlined into our brains nowadays. So to take a different path, and like Gagne said many times, be brave and bold and try something new. This is the film. And to have these two iconic characters battle each other, come out as better people and
And dead.
and inspire you to do better and be better. I think this movie, in the overall theme of story types, story arcs, superheroes, is just a grand telling of what it should be. I don't know. I still enjoyed it. Enjoyed every second of it. I still weep every time he says Martha.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
No.
Yep. I do. I'll be the first to admit that I'll still watch it if it comes on.
You got anything to add, Gagne? I
I'll
feel
watch
like
clips.
we still have so much to say on this movie, but
No, and I feel like we could go on and on about it, what you like, what you don't like. But I think if you stop saying and thinking that this is Warner Brothers trying to keep up with Marvel, and for once just think, you know what, this movie stands on its own at doing something that has never been done before, and while it has its flaws, succeeds on just about every level of entertainment and heart and fun, and it doesn't matter whether it was, you know, shot with a sepia tone that people don't enjoy. It doesn't matter if Martha didn't make sense, and it doesn't matter if Lex
You're
Luthor
right.
was an annoying
Throwaway
rich kid.
character.
Throwaway character. Yeah.
That's what he said.
you know, they were
Yeah.
bad parts
I-
of
and
Marvel
I-
movies too that we just kind of throw aside. So you know, in the grand
not saying
scheme of
it,
things,
they're all
you know,
great.
This movie,
Yeah, better analogy for this movie. This movie's like a really hot chick with a shitty personality. Like, she's fun to look at here and there, but her conversations are really long, boring, confusing, doesn't really lead to anything. Imagine hanging out with that for 2.5 hours. Not fun.
And,
Well, what's your end goal?
and
What's
how
your
many
end goal?
times have you
To enjoy
stayed with
yourself?
those girls?
Yeah. She's not giving it up. That's what I'm saying.
That's your
This
fault.
movie gave you everything. You just didn't want to take it.
I took
I
Wonder
don't
Woman. I
like
ran
to
with.
take things.
There's a lot of things I liked in it. I'm sorry, I can compliment this movie. You're acting like I hate this movie. There's things I like about it. I enjoyed Batfleck. I enjoyed Alfred. I enjoyed Wonder Woman. It's just everything around that cluster.
No, it's Danford.
It is totally
and
dead.
Alfred was awesome. He
Alfred
was,
is good.
Yeah,
I
I'll give
like
you
him.
that. This is my favorite version of Alfred. Like I said, I don't hate this movie. It's just not that great.
Well, to sum it all up, good arguments from both sides. Now we leave it in the hand of the audience to let them decide, who won the argument, which team did good. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments, a lot of feedbacks. I love to hear everything from all our listeners. Please let us know how you feel about this. I'm sure you're cringing as you listen to this, or maybe you're agreeing, disagreeing, but it was definitely fun to hear you guys duke this out.
I had so much fun.
This is a great movie, and obviously,
Whoa,
We're wrapping it up.
We wrapped up the part of the movie talk.
It's after the bell. You can't
I feel like everyone's trolling. Everyone's just trolling right now. Like one low blow. Like, whoa, ref. Go ahead, take away 1 point. Take away 1 point from me.
Well, thanks everybody. This was an awesome debate episode. Hopefully, we'll have some more like this coming up in the future. I think The Last Jedi kind of has to be the next one.
Well, we'll figure this out. We'll figure this out over Five Guys and In-N-Out Burger guy. Okay, we'll figure this out slowly.
You mean In-N-Out?
I agree with you as long as we just stick to In-N-Out.
I agree that I don't really give a shit. If you want to wait the half hour to get your burger, go for it.
It's worth it.
Go ahead, shake your head because he literally tested it. It was like 20 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes for fast.
Ooh, 15 minutes.
15 minutes. No,
It's
he
not as
wasn't.
long as BvS.
I'm sorry. He wasn't at a sit-down restaurant. You must have misheard him. He was at In-N-Out. The name of it is In and Out. Not like
We're not talking about your
period.
sex life. We're not talking about your sex life.
Can we
Andy.
make this?
Yeah, as in you walk in and then you walk out. You
Exactly.
take everything so damn literal. You're like, Batman versus Superman should have just been 2.5 hours of Batman fighting
And it would have been
Superman.
fucking better.
You know,
But it would have no storyline.
Oh, God.
It didn't have a storyline, is what we're getting.
You obviously
okay,
weren't
guys,
paying attention.
yeah, fuck movie debates. We're talking burgers next episode.
Okay, you know what? I just want to say thank you to our listeners. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. It was a very passionate issue. Next time, I'd love to jump in, have someone else be the mediator. Thank you, everybody. We love you. Do you
Thanks,
love
guys.
our audience, Eddie?
Oh, I love you guys.
Go Team BvS.
That's right.
Okay, no more last word on BvS, guys. We're done.
Guys,
Thank
coming out
you,
with sore
everybody. We
losers.
appreciate it. We'll,
right.
we'll see you next week for week 11. Have a good night.
Oh, yeah.
Later, y'all. Welcome to the post segment of the show.
Hey, guys, we wanted to actually throw another giveaway to you. If you guys have something you wanted to throw out to one of you guys.
Yes, so in one of the latest and greatest Marvel movie additions to the MCU, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
one of
we're
the latest additions.
going to argue that one, too.
That can be its own thing. Anyways, but yes, we do have a digital download available to you all. Yes, I'm willing to part with this. It's a very entertaining movie. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to be putting up a new poll this week. If you listen to the episode, you're going to get to side with one of us. But yeah, if you vote and then you leave a comment, any sort of comment, you'll automatically be entered into contention, and we will announce the winner next episode.
Yeah, we'll randomly choose one of you guys. We'll throw that code your way, and you can enjoy a Marvel movie. If in case you didn't like Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah, a good movie.
There you go. Thanks, guys. We'll see you online for that.
See you next week.
Bye.